All right, welcome class. Tonight's video is on lesson 3-7, and in this lesson we're going to be comparing and ordering fractions. And once again, I've got some guest teachers, so one by one, introduce yourselves.
Davis, Hampton, Quinn,
Rain, AK.
All right, otherwise known as Ann Catherine. And we are going to talk to you about how to take two fractions and compare them and put them in order. So we're going to get started right away with a couple fractions. Suppose I give you two fractions. Suppose one is 3/7 and the other one is 5/11. Okay. Now if you look at those fractions, okay, both of them are a little bit smaller than a half, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So think about it. Now, which one is bigger? Well, there's a couple ways we can do this. Okay, my favorite way is called the crisscross method. And what I'm going to actually do, I'm going to actually move these fractions down a little bit. And here's how the crisscross method works. Okay, in the crisscross method, what we do is we start at the bottom and we draw arrows like this. It looks a little like cross multiplying and it's similar, but you always start at the bottom and you work up. All right, so AK, what's 7 times 5?
35.
Good. Okay, oops, 30, well that didn't work very well. Okay, so that's 35. Let's try that again. Okay, and Rain, 11 times 3?
33.
Okay, and it's very important that we start at the bottom because now all we have to do is compare those two green numbers, and since 33 is less than 35, it turns out that 3/7 is less than 5/11. Now, I think that some people call this the bow tie method, and that's fine, or the crisscross method. There is another way to do it. You could have gotten a common denominator, which in this case would be 77. Okay, because that's the LCM of 7 and 11, which is how it has to do with last night's lesson. Okay, that was a little fat for that blue marker. Let's just thin it down. And then 11 goes into 77 7 times, right? Mm-hmm. And so the top here is 35. Okay, over here 7 goes into 77 11 times, so I'd have to multiply the bottom by 11, so I have to multiply the top by 11 too. And I get 33. Notice I get the exact same numbers I have up here. And so sure enough, 33/77 is less than 35/77. And again, my stylus is failing me today. Let's make sure that that's clear. This should be 35 over 77. Okay, so that is how you put two fractions in order. So let's try another one. Try 3/16 and 12 64ths. Okay? So, and when I say compare them, I want to know whether the first fraction is less than, greater than, or equal to the second fraction. All right, so here's another way that you can do these. You can reduce both fractions. Now, 3/16 is already reduced to simplest form, but look at 12 over 64. What's that equal to? Well, 12 over 64, they're both even, right? Mm-hmm. So what's half of 12 and half of 64, Hampton?
6.
6 and
32.
But they're still both even, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
So let's take another 2 out.
3.
Okay? And so now, now we get all the way down to 3 and 16. Oh, wait a second. Isn't that the one we started with?
Well,
So the right side is also equal to 3/16, so in this case, they're equal. Mm-hmm. All right? Now, if we'd done the crisscross, would that also have told me the same thing?
Yeah.
Well, 16 times 12 is going to take a little bit of work, but let's come down here and do it. 16 times 12. 12 times, or 2 times 16 is 32. We'll do a little cherry bomb this time. And then 16. And if I add that up, I'm out of room at the bottom of the screen, but I'm going to get 192. So if I do it this way, I get 192. And it turns out that if I multiply 64 times 3, I also get 192. And if the two numbers come out the same,
It's equal.
they're equal, so are the fractions. Okay, so that is one way to compare fractions. Another way to compare fractions is to put a bunch of fractions in order. So suppose you have a list of fractions like 1/6, 2/5, 1/10, 3/7, and 7/9. And I want to put those in order from least to greatest. All right. Are there any that jump out at you that are kind of obvious? Wow. I don't know why my stylus isn't working today. Are there any that jump out to you that are obviously least or greatest?
1/10.
Okay, 1/10. It has 1 on the top and it has the biggest denominator. Okay? And so I would tend to agree that that is clearly the smallest fraction. And by the same token, what's the biggest fraction?
9/7.
7th.
You mean 7/9, right? Because it's almost 1, because it's got almost as many pieces on the top as it does on the bottom. All right? Now, if I look at the rest of the fractions, 2/5 and 3/7 are both a little bit less than a half, right? Because 2/4 would have been a half and 3/6 would have been a half, and the bottoms are a little bit bigger. So they're a little bit less than a half. And then we've got 1/6. Now, I think 1/6 is like 1/10. We only have one piece out of 6. You can picture that if you drew a picture of it, right? If you took a pie and divided it up into 6 pieces, 1/6 is not very much. So, all right, so all we really have to do is compare this fraction and this fraction. So let's take those two, do the crisscrossy, even though they're kind of spread out. What do you get when you do 7 times 2?
14.
14. And when you do 5 times 3?
15.
You get 15. So the smaller fraction is 2/5, and the bigger fraction is 3/7. And now I've put my fractions in order from least to greatest. And again, that is an example of how we order and compare fractions. So some of them might be able to be done obviously. Others are going to be a little bit trickier. That's pretty much it. What we're going to do tomorrow is practice this. Now, I have one last thing, but I'm going to have to say goodbye to my friends because they came in to help make a video, and it's time for them to get to class. So why don't you all say goodbye?
Goodbye.
All right. And once again, that was AK and Rain and Davis and Hampton and Quinn. So, oh, and it paused.
Bye.
Oh, no, it didn't pause. All right, nope, you guys are all good. I'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Okay, so thanks to all of my contributors. The last thing I wanted to talk about very quickly is I wanted to talk about what you do with mixed numbers. And for mixed numbers, it's a little more obvious. If I'm trying to compare 5 and 1/3 and 4 and 7/8, you don't even look at the fraction part. If the whole number, as long as they're written in proper mixed number form, you just look at the whole number. And if the whole number 5 is bigger than 4, you're done. You don't even have to think any more about it. Only if the whole numbers were the same would you need to compare the fraction parts. And then all you'd have to do is compare the fraction parts. So just compare 1/3 and 7/8, and this one's pretty obvious that 1/3 is less than 7/8. So therefore 5 and 1/3 is less than 5 and 1/8. All right, and so really what I need to do is I need to move this over, okay, and put the 5 back in right here, okay? So really compare the fractions if the whole numbers are the same. Otherwise, you can just go by the whole numbers and not even worry about the fractions, okay? All right, so to wrap things up, I wanted to show you a picture of my contributors for today. And so from the iPhone, let's see, and so here we are. There is our motley crew for today. And so thanks again to Ann Catherine, Rain, Hampton, to Quinn, and also to Davis. So that's it for tonight. Thanks for watching, guys, and apologies for the long video last night, so hopefully this one won't be too bad. Again, thanks for watching. See you in class tomorrow where we'll practice this some more.